Hi, I'm Kyle, a tired therapist.
And I'm Jackie, also a tired therapist.
And together, we are
Two tired therapists.
Welcome to the pod. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome. Welcome back.
It's the pod.
It's the pod. Two
Once
tired
more.
therapists. We are two tired therapists.
We are tired.
Woof.
We're always tired,
We're
I feel like.
always tired. Always tired. Never rested.
Never.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
What's tired, Jackie? What's going on?
Oh, my. Oh. There's just so many things, I feel like. Oh, what am I tired? I'm tired of so many things. Honestly, recently what's tired is when people do all caps in messages. I'm like, please stop doing that.
Please stop doing that.
Unless you're like trying to emphasize a word or something, but like if you're gonna type to me, don't type in all caps. I'm not gonna read it and I'm not gonna respond.
Too much effort.
Right. Well, and it's like you're shouting at me. I don't want to be shouted at.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just tired. Like I always get tired of that when people do that, or like when people like that's their only mode of just all caps in instant messaging, whatever system you use, Teams, whatever.
Yeah.
If you're texting, if you're on an email, I'm like, it says your caps locks on.
I feel like it's very boomer.
It is.
Is it a boomer thing?
I think it is a boomer thing. So sorry.
So sorry.
So sorry, Greg.
Oh. So sorry, Greg. Does he do that?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, Greg has never done that
Greg,
to
we're
me.
not talking
Greg,
about
if you do that to me after this, you're canceled.
He will. He absolutely will. We'll report back.
No. I think I'm with you. I think I won't say boomer, but I'll say I feel like it's an above 50
Well,
thing.
it's, and no tea, no shade, but probably a sight thing. Those are easier to see.
Yes.
I'm going to assume.
Yes. I'm gonna assume as well, but I feel like
we can change the font size.
I was gonna say you can change the font size. You can change the zoom in on your phone to where that makes it easy. Please don't type in all caps to me. I don't like it. I'm tired of it.
We're not doing that.
I'm somebody who's like usually all lowercase unless I'm emphasizing I feel like the time I use it the most is when I say a lot. I will put that in all caps.
Right.
But that's the
or
only time.
if you're trying to, if it were like, I really don't like it, you would capitalize that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I hear you.
That's what I'm tired of. Simple one, but
very simple but powerful.
Yes. Mm-hmm. What are you tired of? Are you gonna continue with your homophobia?
No. Well, maybe a little. Maybe a little. Oh,
sure. Okay.
Homophobia adjacent, I think, and I feel like I'm the only person who's experienced this before. But have you seen on, like, I see it mostly on YouTube, I think, but it'll be like vocal coach reacts to like Whitney Houston.
Oh, like a expert or person reacting. Yeah, I've seen stuff like that.
No. Like, what are we doing?
I don't feel like that's the venue to do it. Like,
how are you? And no, not saying that you're not a good vocal coach. I'm not saying that.
Right, but you shouldn't be critiquing
Whitney.
Right.
Or like, I don't know,
Adele or somebody.
Right. Like,
I don't. Yeah, and that's not my thing either.
No. What are you doing? What are we doing?
Yeah. I guess what's your point in doing that? I guess to say that you
think you're better than Whitney.
Right.
What?
That is tired. I hate that.
So don't do that. Yeah. One I saw, I think recently was, they reacted to the new Little Mermaid, and they just had all these things. Well, she should have done this or should have, no.
Did you watch the new Little Mermaid?
Yeah, I did. I loved it.
What did you think of?
Oh, it was so good.
What did you think of Ursula's makeup? Did you hate it like everybody else did?
I thought it was great.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
I didn't watch it.
No, I thought it was fine. I think it was kind of it wasn't the exact same thing, but it's.
I don't think it should have been
It shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
No, I thought it was fine. I thought she played the part well. There were a couple songs. They did some new songs.
Oh, okay. I have not watched it. It's not my thing. But I know people who have, and they said there was a little bit of a difference, and there was some word changes and some other stuff.
Yeah, there were some word changes
to make it more modern.
Yeah, it was definitely modernized. Some, original songs I could have done without.
Sure.
I think, but the remakes they did of the original songs, I thought were good. I thought were great. So I loved it. People get upset about dumb things. Just gonna say it.
Retweet. So, I won't even retweet.
Let's not even go into it. We got more exciting things. So yeah, but vocal coaches, stop it. Stop that.
We don't care.
We don't care.
We don't care about your thoughts.
Nobody cares. Goodbye. So, Jackie, what an interesting episode we're gonna have today.
Oh, good. I have no idea what's about to occur in true fashion.
I've kind of smashed together several things that we've discussed previously.
Okay.
I don't even know what the title of this episode is going to be.
We can make up something random.
We're going to have to make up something random. Because we talked about doing, like, a therapy myths. Like, what are some myths about therapy that people, you know, to maybe anyone out there who's thinking of getting into therapy, maybe you're worried. So we're going to do some of that. But then we also talked, let me say, and with that, I'm going to talk about something else. We didn't really talk about this, so I'm going to surprise you with that.
Okay, great.
But then part of something we also talked about was, what are some weird things that people say to therapists?
Yes.
Outside of therapy.
Yes.
So I have some of those that we're going to react to as well. So we're going to do a little bit of everything today. So
this is going to be a little
hodgepodge of everything.
Okay.
So let's start out. Let's do just some myths about therapy.
Okay.
So the first one, therapists sit behind desks and take notes while you lie on a couch.
No. That's never happened to me.
They might sit behind a desk.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe they take notes, but there's no lying on couches. That's
a no. I don't want you lying on a couch.
That's way back when.
Yes,
they did do that. I mean, at least I think. Actually,
I think Freud did that.
Yeah, but we don't do that anymore. Now it's it's the conversation. You're discussing things.
Do you take notes?
I do. I typey my notes during session because I don't have time to do it after.
Good for you. I'm just thinking like the main place I did therapy was a prison, so I didn't have a computer in front of me. Sometimes I took notes, but I would say the majority of the time I did not.
I used to write notes and then I would type it later, but then just with how
it's a double work. I mean,
with how busy things are, concurrent documentation, very important to do concurrent.
It just makes things a little bit easier.
It does, but I think it can be kind of a barrier sometimes because it allows me to not listen when I don't want to listen.
Yes. You're correct.
Therapists have ready-made solutions for all of life's problems.
Oh, abso-fucking-lutely not.
No.
Abso-fucking-lutely not. I can't tell you how many times in the prison I said, I don't know how to respond to that. Let me think on that. I will get back to you next month.
Put that in the parking lot.
No, I don't. I don't think I've ever. That was like my biggest misconception. Like, I don't know if you remember like going through grad school and thinking like, I'm going to have the answer for everything. Yes. And then the first day on the job, you're like, somebody's like, tells you something very traumatic and you're like, what the fuck?
You're like, no, I'm just here to talk about like your girlfriend. Like,
yes. Yeah. No.
Oh yeah. I remember part of me when I wanted to be a therapist was like, well, I'm going to solve people's problems. And on the first day they're like, so therapists don't solve people's problems. And I'm like, fuck. Uh-oh.
Yeah. I thought as I kept going through grad school, I was like, when am I going to get to the class where they tell me what to say, when to say it? And that never happened. And I was like, oh shit. And then I went and started doing my own thing. And then I'm like, oh, and then I did. And then of course I made it more complicated. And I like to do therapy with people with psychosis. So there's like another layer of like, how do you respond to things that's like, John Lennon is in my brain and he is controlling my pork chop. And you're like, what?
Right. There's no like, okay, so he's not.
Right.
That's not going to work.
So yeah, no, I don't think I've ever had a situation where I felt like I knew exactly what to say. I will just say that I try to respond to stuff thinking as I'm the client and how I would want somebody to respond to me. That's usually how I like frame it. But
and I mean, I think there's some things that you can be like, okay, we probably shouldn't do that. There's some definite things. Or sometimes I'll say, well, here's like what the majority of people might do, but that doesn't mean that's going to work for you.
Right.
So I think there's some things, but no, it's not like you come in and say, oh, I'm having this problem, and you go, oh, here's this solution.
Right.
And then that's it.
Right.
So the next one, therapists blame a client's problems on their upbringing.
No.
Yeah. Not in the sense of like it's all your parents' fault. There's no blame. I guess maybe that's the word.
Yeah, I think of one time that I was like, your parents definitely didn't do the best job, but I didn't blame their whole thing on the parents. No, I would never be like, it's your parents. Like,
No.
I would never encourage that kind of.
And even if so, it's, at least for me, mine is more of, so we understand like what were the ingredients that got you to where you are today. Right. Like we can understand that your parents did or did not do X, Y, and Z, or that you had X, Y, and Z experiences as a kid.
Right.
And that led to some things.
Yeah.
But never in a, oh yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't actually
that's not going to be helpful.
Anything.
No, that's not helpful.
Therapy can solve problems in 1 or 2 sessions.
Well, I think it depends on the problem, but I would say no in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say generally no, because a lot of times your first session is an assessment.
Yeah,
So there's a lot
yeah.
of very specific questions you get asked, and so you're not going to get a lot of stuff done.
If you have a complex problem or something's going on in your life and you are
Hmm.
done after 3 to 5 sessions, something has gone
So
wrong.
yeah, something is not, yeah.
Because
Hmm.
that's not really how it goes.
Right. But if you're just like, oh, I want to learn how to exercise more, okay, we might be able to do that in a
Yeah.
handful of sessions.
Yeah.
But if you're like, well, my mom used to lock me in a cage until I was 13.
Right, and I had to put a bucket.
And I
I
had to
mean,
poop in a bucket.
that's more
I'm
that's like
I'm
maybe
gonna need
years
I'm gonna need
probably.
at least 3 sessions
Yeah.
at least. Like
Minimum.
minimum. Yeah, precisely.
Oh my god.
Exactly.
Yeah, no.
Therapy is only for really serious problems.
No. I mean, when I did therapy, it was in a serious venue, but I would say in general, no, it's not like only for really serious problems. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you can go to therapy for anything.
I was gonna say I've
Yeah.
when I worked somewhere else that wasn't prison, people were coming in because they couldn't concentrate, and that while that doesn't seem like a big problem, like I mean it affected their life pretty deeply, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like like my mom locked me in a cage and I pooped in a bucket, like it wasn't like that
Right.
type of thing. But yeah,
Right.
I saw people come in for that. I saw people coming in for like minimal anxiety stuff. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
you don't have to have something wrong
No.
necessarily.
And we don't, I think it's there, at least I don't, we don't compare like, oh, my 1 o'clock patient has
Yeah.
much worse problem.
No.
Like we don't do that.
No.
The only thing that might differ is that if you don't have quote unquote serious problems,
Mm-hmm.
then you may not be meeting with your therapist as often.
Right.
That
You
would be
you
the
may
only
be
thing.
seen like once a month or
Right.
once every couple weeks versus
Right.
weekly or whatever.
Right, exactly. The next one, therapy is just a pricey venting session.
Maybe for some people it is.
I mean, I guess it could be in theory, but hopefully your therapist would say, hey, you're just venting. This isn't really.
Yeah, that's not what it's
therapy.
about. I guess if that's what's happening, then you need to either find a new therapist
Yeah.
or figure out
Or I guess
how to
if
make it more productive.
you're okay paying for that, cool. I guess.
Hot take. What's your thought on people who've been in therapy for 20 years straight?
With the same therapist?
Yes.
Like,
I'll tell you what my take is.
like not like taking breaks for
no
like
breaks.
a year. Like
no breaks.
consistently
They've seen,
coming.
Yep.
Not ideal, I would say. It would depend, I guess.
You
I
wanna
guess
hear
I
my
would
hot
have to know
take?
the case.
You're a paid friend,
Yeah.
and as a therapist, you're not doing your job because you shouldn't
Yeah.
have somebody in therapy for 20 years. I mean,
Yeah.
truly.
Consistently.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure off and on, fine. Or if it's like,
I mean, yeah.
if it's someone where you're like, we're meeting every 4 months or something as just check-ins.
Yeah. But at that point, then
But if
you
you're
need to cut
meeting
it off.
like weekly or every other week, even
Yeah, I know.
maybe even monthly, I would say something's.
Well, you should. And then I'm like,
Something
the
might be
therapist
going
is a
on.
little wrong because that's like I feel like you're collecting money on somebody that you just won't terminate. Like, and you should terminate at a
Yeah,
certain
if you're
point.
not actually
yeah, like you're
working
not.
on
Yeah,
something.
to me, you're just a paid friend. I've said that
or
to
if
people.
or if they have like, I don't know, severe mental illness and you kind of have to do that, maybe
yeah, that's a little different. But I'm thinking more of like
you just like chat. Yeah.
average normal person
Right.
who's maybe got a little depression, anxiety. You've been seeing the same person for 20 years.
Yeah.
And so you're
Yeah, and
a
if
paid
it's just
friend.
them coming and being like, well, I called Papa John's and it was real hard, like
I struggled.
It was hard.
It was so hard. I had to talk to a person on the phone. I don't like
Right.
talking on the phone, but I mean it. Yeah, I feel like you're just a paid friend at
Yeah.
a certain point,
Yeah.
and I don't like that. And
Yeah.
then I think badly of the therapist because I'm like, what are you doing? Anyways,
Well, that actually goes into the next
Okay.
one of I'll have to stay in therapy forever.
no, you shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't have to.
No.
No, that's it's so different for everybody. So I can't say like therapy should only be X amount of time because
Yeah.
it's so specific to you and what's going on in your life. I would say though, if you have a really significant problem and you're in therapy for longer than a couple of
Mhm.
years, then maybe something's going on, or maybe you need to find a different therapist, or maybe you need to talk
Mhm.
to your therapist about why you're still in therapy.
Especially if you don't feel like you're making
yeah.
progress.
If there's progress being made, I think it's fine. But if you're not making any,
Yeah.
if
Because
you
I
still,
know
if you still can't call Papa John's,
I've
for your
definitely
pizza.
had patients I've seen for several years now,
Sure.
but for them, like there's things that have come up and we have
Right,
to work
right.
on and stuff like that. But I think if you shouldn't be in therapy weekly for the rest of your life.
No,
Again,
that's
unless
not good.
if you have some serious mental illness, where you're,
Yeah.
that you have to stay accountable, make sure you're taking your meds, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Fine.
But even that, you don't necessarily need therapy.
But
for
even
that.
then, I feel like it should ebb and flow. And you may go from meeting weekly to then monthly to then
Yeah.
every 6 weeks to then maybe I'll take a break. And then,
Yeah.
a year later something happens, you go
Yeah.
back. That's fine.
Mhm.
That's totally fine. But shouldn't be a lifelong thing.
Nope.
Therapy doesn't work.
I don't think this is generally true. I think if you have a bad therapist, this is true, but
Mhm.
I would say no. I think it works even when you feel like it doesn't work.
Yeah. I agree. I think now there are some outliers
Sure.
of certain disorders, mostly personality, that don't
Yeah.
respond well to treatment.
Right.
But generally, if you find a therapist that you trust and feel like you can do that work, then it should help you. Now,
Yeah.
it may not quote unquote cure you.
Right.
If you have schizophrenia, just because you do therapy doesn't mean it's going to cure you.
Right.
But you can improve your life.
Yes. Agreed.
A therapist will make me discuss things I don't want to talk about.
No. Generally, no.
Generally, no.
If you're like, I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about this, I might be like, why don't you want to talk about it? Or
Yeah.
like, I might poke why, but I wouldn't like, if you're like, I don't want to talk about my mother and all the things she did to me. I'm not,
You're like,
not,
well,
not second session. I'm going to be
Tough
like,
shit.
we're going to sit here until you
Right.
tell
Until
me.
you tell me.
Yeah.
Bitch.
It wouldn't be,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be like that.
No. But I definitely do tell people, like, if they're like, oh, I don't want to talk about this, I'll be like, okay, I understand we don't have to right now. However, it's obviously important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or it has something to do with something.
Well, and you can work up to that. That's
yeah,
not like
but yeah, it's like you said, it's not gonna be second session. But
could you imagine?
but I will tell people point blank, like I'm thinking of a patient I have now that has some serious grief, and they're like, I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, I hear you, it's hard. I said, but this is gonna be a big root problem of a lot of your stuff right now.
Yeah, until you address
So-
it, it's gonna affect.
And they're
a lot
like,
of
well, why
other-
have to talk about it? I'm like, that's how it is. That's how
Yeah.
this works.
Yeah.
That's how humans work.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, in that moment, I'm not like, fucking talk about it.
Yeah. Talk to
about
me.
it.
Yeah. No, I
No.
don't know. Mm-mm.
And the last one for this list, therapy is not confidential.
What? Who says that?
A lot of people believe
That's not true.
that you'll tell everybody their business.
That's not true at all.
Not true at all. Nope. It's I guess, legally protected
Yeah, it's
thing.
it's HIPAA.
Completely 100%
Health
confidential.
Information Portability and Act.
Sure. That was more than I knew.
No, it's HIPAA protected, so like you can't, like we couldn't disclose anything, like
No.
hence why if like you've noticed, if we say like people we've given treatment to, like there's absolutely no identifying information, so you can never see this person.
No, right.
And I'll say the majority of therapists really take that really seriously. Some people don't,
Sure.
and those are the
Sure.
the 10% of therapists that probably aren't the
Right.
best. But
But
no.
I don't think, I mean, they're not like posting on Facebook your stuff.
No,
Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure
you
somebody
shouldn't.
has.
I'm sure it's happened, but no. Most people don't.
Yeah.
I mean, most therapists won't do that.
No, it's completely confidential, completely. I always tell people, like, even if you tell like your spouse that you're in therapy with me and they call in to ask about something, we can't even pretend
Yeah,
we know
unless
who
you sign a
are.
release, we
Yeah.
can't do anything. Well, and even if you're out in your community and you see your therapist isn't going to say shit to you unless
No,
you
we have to
acknowledge them
pretend
first.
we don't
Yeah,
know you
yeah.
unless you start
So
that.
no,
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
no.
So and like even if you work in like a hospital system or something, I
Yeah.
tell people like doctors can't even see our notes. Like they can
Nope.
see that you've had a visit,
Yeah,
but they can't
yeah.
look at our notes. So
Yeah.
it's completely confidential. The only time we have to break that is if you're gonna hurt yourself. That's a no.
Others
Hurt
or
somebody else,
commit some type of child or elder abuse.
Right.
That's about the only times.
or a court subpoenas
Yes,
records. Those are the only times. And
Yeah.
I always tell people, typically we'd like to let you know that that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But so yeah. So there's some myths. Those are
Yes.
things that keep people
Yeah,
from
those are all
therapy.
things
Mhm.
for the most part.
Now, I think to help people, what are some things that you might hear your therapist say in a session?
Oh,
So let me see. And I'm curious if you say any of these,
okay.
because I felt a little red when I was looking
Oh,
up and
see, I did
thinking
therapy in
about
such a
some things.
weird situation. There's
That's
probably
true,
things that
but
I said in
I
my
don't know,
time, which I
well,
can repeat some. Anyways,
maybe,
go
maybe.
on, and I'll try to give my equivalent.
So I think the first one, kind of stereotypical. How are you feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I usually said, what's going on with you today?
yeah, some variation of that.
Yeah.
Of course. But yes, your therapist is probably going to
Yes.
ask you about your feelings.
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably going to happen. Any kind of variation of what I'm hearing is, it sounds like, I wonder if. Mhm.
Yeah, sort of. I did stuff like that, but
Yeah.
not exactly like what I'm hearing. I'd be like, I hear you saying you're gonna
Yeah.
punch me in the face, and
Right.
I'm telling you I will punch you back if you touch me.
Right.
Did say that to
I
somebody once.
definitely, I'm definitely more of it sounds like, or like what I'm hearing. I definitely do
Yeah.
those. I don't do a wonder if. I'm more,
Yeah, sounds like is probably the one I would
Yeah.
probably use the most.
yeah. I
Sounds
do,
like-
instead of like telling someone what to do, like if I have some kind of thought like that, I'll kind of wrap it up in more of a, you know what I just thought of? Like I'll do this kind of like off the hand thing.
You're
Like,
like, oh, you know what would be, it's a good idea, or
Like,
what I just thought. Yeah,
I did that with a client yesterday because we were kind of brainstorming things and they were very like stuck in what to do. And one of the things was like, I just wanted to be like, just go to like the library. Like they were talking about, I don't know, studying or something. And I was like, I just want to be like, go to the library. It's quiet. But sometimes you can't do that because people
Yeah,
will knock it. So I'll be like, you know what? Like I had a friend that used to go to the library and I always thought that was really weird, but it worked really well for them.
yes.
And the person was like, oh my gosh, I'd never thought about that. So it's like I didn't tell
So
them what to do,
clever.
but I kind of
Yeah,
did.
you kind of did. Yeah, yeah,
Another one. Tell me more about that.
yeah.
This is my go-to when I don't know what to say.
When I did intakes, when I did intakes, I'd be like, tell me. They'd be like, I have 5 sisters, blah, blah, blah. I'd be like, oh, tell me more about your family, or tell me more about
Right.
whatever. And
Right.
like it helps a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
In the prison system, you don't want to do that, but in
Yeah.
regular therapy, outpatient therapy, that's fine.
It's definitely my go-to when I don't know what to say.
yes.
When
yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, "Ugh, I'm so frustrated, and what should I do?
well, tell me
Well,
more.
tell me more about frustrated. What's that
Yeah.
like? What's going on
Yes.
there? That's because
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know what
And that kind of goes into the next
Yes.
one. What do you think it means?
Oh,
Right? People will be like, why do I
yeah.
do that? Why do I do this?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why do you think so?
Yeah.
And I do that because I need a minute to think.
Yeah. My prison variation for that is like, why do you think that's a good idea that you want to, break your door?
Right.
Tell me why that's a good idea.
Tell me why that's a good idea.
What makes you think that
Why
is
that?
how that's going to achieve
Why
your
is that
goals?
coming up for you right now?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Stuff like
Yes.
that.
Yep. The next couple are, I think, like what you see more in like media,
Sure.
and movies and stuff. You're the expert on you.
Yeah, I see that a lot. And I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever heard, well, I've heard people say the client is the expert on their life, which I agree with because I don't live
Mhm.
in your shoes, but yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know anybody who actually like genuinely says that to clients.
No. I think I have said what you said. You're the expert on your life. But
Yeah.
sometimes you're coming to therapy because you're not the expert on you.
Yes.
Because you're doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, you're being bonkers.
You're being bonkers, and we need help to not be bonkers. So, what are you doing for self-care?
Yeah. I feel like other therapists ask that of each other, but I don't know that I've ever.
Oh.
I've seen it. Well, I've seen it used with clients, but yeah, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
professionals use it with each other.
Yeah, definitely professionals. I didn't think about that. I think I have asked people about self-care. Like, I think my go-to is people say, like, oh, I'm more depressed this week, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll go, wow, like, that, sounds like it's been a rough week. Like, how have you been taking care of yourself? Or how have you been dealing
Yeah.
with that?
Mm-hmm,
And then they'll be like, well, I haven't. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
that's a problem.
I thought of a funny prison story I'll share. Sorry, but I think it's kind of funny.
No,
So
please.
I had this person on my caseload. Ugh. He was rough, still rough to this day. He was on a range with people that he shouldn't have been on because of things that he was doing, and so he knew it, and he just kept saying it was my job to not make him bored. Like I needed to come up with things for him to do.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no. And
No,
I was
no.
like, that's not my job. I said, but I will give you some
Not an
worksheets
activities
and
director.
right. I'm not the activities liaison for the prison, but I said I will give you some worksheets. I will print out some self-care stuff that you can do. So I went on the internet, found some generic stuff. There was this list of like 100 activities you could do. And I read through them. Some of them he couldn't do because he was in prison, but I would say probably 85 to 90% of it he could 100% do. I gave him the list next time I saw him. He was like, I couldn't do anything on the list. I said, you couldn't do one thing on that list. He said, no. I said, what was the first thing? He said, read a book. I said, you can't read a book.
All you can do.
And he was just like, well, it said take a bath. And I said, yeah, I know you can't take a bath, but I mean.
So move on to the next
Right.
thing.
That's what I said. So I'm like,
Yeah.
that's when you move on to the next one. He's like, well, it's your job to have me not be bored. And I was like,
No,
that's not my
that's
job. And
not
I
my
will be
job.
leaving this session. Goodbye. And I walked out.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Yep.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was not a nice guy.
No.
Mm-mm.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay, next one. You can't avoid your emotions.
I don't know if I've ever heard people say this like in a session, but I feel like I say this about clients, or if I hear people like
Yeah.
people are staffing other people, and you can very obviously tell, I'd be like, oh, they can't
Right.
they can't avoid that. You gotta
Yeah.
walk through that. You can't walk around it.
I probably have told people you can't avoid your emotions or you can't stuff them down. That's
Yeah,
probably what I've said.
I'm sure I've said it too,
Mhm.
but I can't remember off the top of my head.
And how's that working for you?
Oh, this is like my number one favorite in the
Mhm.
prison. It'd be like, I'm
Mhm.
punching my door so you'll talk to me, and then I'll walk by, and then they'll be like, you didn't talk to me, and I'm like, well, how did that work for you?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna talk to you if you're punching your door.
Yeah. This is kind of my like when I'm kind of fed up and people are like, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how's it working for you?
Yeah, how's that working for
They're
you?
like, well, it's not. Okay.
And how is that working
Then
for
maybe
you?
we don't do it.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
You can't control the situation, but you can control your reaction.
Absolutely. This is probably a close tie with the last one. That is what
Yeah.
I say in the prison,
Yeah.
because they can control absolutely nothing in there except for how they behave.
Literally.
So yes,
Right.
I say that.
And
I said
people
that a
really
lot.
fight back at this. They're like, I
Mhm.
can't control myself. You can. Now,
Oh yes, you
it's
can.
not a switch,
Sure.
but you absolutely can.
Yeah, I always use myself as an example. I'd be like, what do you think when you see your friend down the range screaming at me? And do I scream back? They're like, no, you never do. I said, exactly. So you can
Mhm.
control yourself.
Right.
As much as I want to, I may not. And they're
Right.
like, huh.
Uh,
It's like a
huh.
novel concept.
I know.
Controlling yourself and how you behave was a novel concept in the
I know.
prison for a lot of
I
people
know.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Sad.
Absolutely.
Anyways,
Very sad.
lawless.
The last one for this list, silence.
Yeah.
Sometimes your therapist won't say anything.
Yeah. Could be good or it could be bad.
Yeah, it could be good or be good. I think there is such a thing as therapeutic silence.
Yes.
Because we know that people are uncomfortable with silence and they will
Yes.
start talking and will spill the beans on things. And as
Yes.
therapists, we don't give a shit.
Yeah.
We can sit there all day.
Yeah,
in
I won't. Yeah,
silence.
I'm literally thinking of probably 3 different
Yeah.
times that I just sat and people just kept getting freaked because I wasn't saying
Mhm.
anything, but they'd been misbehaving so badly. I was like, I'm
Mhm.
not going to say anything. I'm just going to go in there and sit and
Mhm.
just stare at them.
Mhm.
And it was like, oh, it wasn't my fault. I didn't do it. And you just
Mhm.
spiral. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
I'll sit here all day. I won't say a
Mhm.
word. I
Mhm.
won't say a word.
Yeah. So yeah, but if it's more of a you're asking questions or asking for
Yeah.
guidance or something and they're not getting anything back,
Yeah,
that's probably that's a
it's
problem.
pointed.
So there you go. So
Yeah.
some internal therapy things.
Yes.
So why don't we take a little break
Okay.
and we'll get to my last list, and then
Ooh.
I brought you a fun little kind of on the same vein, a little fact or crap for us to
Ooh,
play.
okay.
So stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back.
We're back.
All right, so this will be a fun list for us
Oh,
because
good.
this is weird things that people say to therapists
Oh
when
my
they find out they're
God,
therapists. So
yes.
this is not in therapy. This is people
Like, you
just
meet-
in
you-
the wild,
Like you're out to dinner. No, maybe that's not a good example. You're out with friends,
out in
and
the
there's a
out
new
in the club.
there's a new friend in the group, and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" And you're like, "I'm a therapist." That's what we're talking
right,
about.
and they
then-
go, "Oh my gosh." These
Fill in the
things.
blank, yes.
Fill in the blanks. Are you ready? So if this is you,
Yes.
life's coming at you fast. Stop
Yes.
saying these things.
Oh my God.
Okay. So the first one, are you reading my mind or analyzing me?
Oh my God. I hate that one.
Yeah.
People are like, so you're a mind reader. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what a therapist is a
Exactly.
mind reader.
If I were a mind reader, my job would be very easy.
I know. And then people are like, they'll be like, oh, tell me what I'm thinking right now. And I always just say pizza. Because I'm like, what's a boring answer that's not
Right.
like
Right.
whatever. I'm always like, pizza. You think about pizza.
Right.
Sometimes I say tacos, but usually I say pizza.
Right. Yes.
Haters.
Yeah, I tell people that what my brain does in therapy and the way that I might like analyze quote unquote a stranger is very different. Like in therapy, I'm thinking of one person. I probably know you. I've probably seen you.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you're telling me a story about what your partner did that made you mad, and I'm thinking, okay, well that sounds a lot like, in their childhood and their relationship with their parents. And
Yeah.
like that's what our brain is doing. And
Yeah.
also thinking about 500 other things like the phone call you have to make after this, and then the fact that you haven't peed in 4
Yeah,
hours.
you've had no
and-
break and you're hungry.
So, no, we're not analyzing.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of analyzing you, but just that you're a dumb bitch
Yeah.
for asking that question.
And yeah, no, I think you're a shitty person.
Yeah.
So it's fine.
You must talk about a lot of people's mothers.
Oh, that's what I've not heard, but
Oh, really?
yeah.
I've heard
like I've
maybe
heard
not mothers, but
parents,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe parents. No, not. I mean, yes. I think this goes back to like blaming childhood.
Yeah,
blaming parents.
yeah.
No,
I don't
not
like.
really.
Yeah.
Tell me what this dream means.
Oh my god, I get that sometimes, and I always tell people what I personally think about dreams is that they're kind of meaningless. I mean, I don't think dream interpretation has
No, there's
any
no,
real merit to
no,
it, in my
doesn't.
opinion. I don't think.
No, scientifically it doesn't.
It's like
yeah.
It's like take a bunch of drugs and then tell me what your drug trip meant. I mean, that's to me, that's what like dreams are. Like, I mean, there's nothing to interpret.
No.
I mean,
I think maybe you could take maybe some, what's the word? Like internal, like for you that means something.
Yeah.
But as far as like Freud's dream analysis, it's all, there's no scientific basis. It doesn't, if your teeth are falling out, that means X,
yeah.
Y. No.
Yeah. If you die in your dream, that means you're going to die. I mean, that's not what it is.
I took a Psych 101 class, so I know a lot about psychology.
Oh my God. I hate people who say this to me. And I get it a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the definition of like this word or this word. They're like, oh, I don't know what that means. I'm like, well, that's Psych 101, but sure.
Well, and the thing is that Psychology 101 and therapy, not even close.
No.
The things I learned in Psych 101, I don't use in therapy.
No.
All of that's just like, it's like the history of psychology.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So, no.
No.
Stop.
Yeah.
Can I ask your advice on...
Yeah, I don't get that one as much, thankfully. I've never really gotten that one. Maybe they know I'm rotted and they shouldn't ask me for advice.
Like, don't ask. She doesn't know.
She didn't know anything.
I don't think I've ever had anyone say that to me, but I know people have like said like, oh, people must come to you for advice or something like that.
Yeah, and if it's like, I don't know, I feel like if it's, I'm talking about people that I don't know who are saying this to me, not like family or close friends, because I've had like family ask me for my opinion on stuff, and I will happily give family my opinion on stuff. But like, yeah, if I'm just meeting you and this is the first thing you say, and you're like, can you give me your advice? Or like, I have a friend who has like a really shitty boyfriend. Like, what would you say to her? How do I get them to break up? I'm like, you can't. I mean, truly, you can't. So.
Well, and I'll tell people too. I'll be like, do you want therapist Kyle or do you want not therapist Kyle?
Yeah.
Which really the answer is kind of the same.
Yeah.
But I might wrap it up differently.
Yeah.
If I'm a therapist, I might be like, dump his ass. Well, I might. Depends on the client, I guess.
Yeah, if you have a good relationship with them, I think you can say that.
You need to dump it. Yeah. And I think the next one kind of goes with this. It tells entire life story. Just launches into the life story.
That or some weird like obscure thing that they like.
Yeah.
Oh,
what does this mean? That's actually why I became a therapist. I think I've talked about it before, but because people would just tell me their life story when they first met me, and I was like, maybe I should do something with this. I remember there was a girl, like, notoriously it's like drunk girls in clubs.
Yes.
But that partly is where it started. I remember one time like waiting in line for the bathroom at
where you always make a good friend, yeah.
It was well, I won't say where, but a very famous place where I went to school. Well, I should say infamous place. And we were waiting in line and she was drunk and she was just like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Oh, like I'm in grad school to be a therapist." She was like, "Oh my God," and just like launched into like her abusive father.
Oh my God.
And, yeah, like we went into, and I was like, "Oh, my.
I'm at a club. You are clearly intoxicated. We can have this conversation."
Right.
And yeah.
Ugh. So people do that. Next one. Your life must be really put together.
I don't know that I've ever heard this one.
I have.
You have?
Yeah. And I tell people.
And you laugh. I would laugh so hard.
I laugh very hard. I say, actually, therapists are the most rotten people in the world.
Yeah, it's kind of true.
Yeah. They're probably the most fucked up people.
This is going to sound bad, but a lot of people say, people are like, "Oh, I wanted to get into help people." And I'm like, I think there's some in the profession that really like being in control.
Yeah.
And so, I would say a lot of them have just as a messy life as you, if not messier. They just have a better time compartmentalizing and going into therapy and doing a really good job.
Yes.
And
so, yeah. And I definitely wouldn't say that like therapists are messy necessarily, but you have to have some kind of shit happen to you to want to go into this profession. Like maybe not something like traumatic.
No, but
of
it
course
might be
that happens.
Yeah.
But, you can't be like well adjusted and then be like, I want to help people.
No, because then I think something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Like if you have no
right.
no trauma, no like, oh, I had an aunt who had schizophrenia, like nothing. If you have nothing and you're like, I just like to talk to people and help people, I think you're a rotted piece of shit.
Right. And honey,
that sounds so bad, but I think you're rotted as hell.
Honey, you got a big storm coming, because as soon as someone tells you like they were raped by their dad, you're done.
Yeah, you're
gone.
Yeah, you gotta be.
You are now traumatized and in therapy.
Yeah, now you got vicarious trauma.
Meanwhile, I don't know what anyone could say to me for me to be like, wow.
I will. Yeah,
I
think
have no idea.
I was gonna say, I think for me working, I hate to keep saying it, but when I worked in the prison, I mean, there's nothing a person could say. There's nothing a person could do that would phase me.
Which is always so funny, because people will come, like when they come to your office and it's like, you know, you've met with them for 2 years and they reveal this big secret. Like, well, I actually cheated on my husband.
Dun,
I
dun,
can't
dun.
believe. And I'm like, okay, well, I've like been with people who like thought about killing their husband. So
yeah,
like,
who cares?
This is Tuesday.
Yeah, this is if you're gonna bring it, you better bring it.
Yeah, you better bring it, bitch, because
I could tell so many stories, but they were just, I don't know. There's just not much. What I love to tell people is, you know, I worked in a place where it was like the worst of the worst. And so I think my favorite story to tell people when they're like, what's it like to work in a prison? And I'm like, okay, so there was a guy, was not on my case at the time, but I was covering for another therapist, and he was on suicide watch. So he was removed from his cell. And he was very angry because nobody was engaging with him, because that was not in his treatment plan. We were not to engage with him, because any attention is good attention to that person.
Sure.
And so I was supposed to check on him if he had gone 24 hours without being obnoxious, which he had not gone even probably 3 seconds without being obnoxious.
Sure.
So I looked at him, looked in his cell, made sure he was alive, and walked off, didn't say a word to him. He then banged his head to the point of bleeding.
Sure.
And then there's a little window in the door, and he wrote, die, put my last name, and then wrote die. Oh. And I really wished that I could have taken a picture, because I would have hung that on my wall. But people were like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, that's what it's like.
You're like, yeah, that was Tuesday.
Yeah, and that was a Tuesday, and that didn't faze me. But then the next day when he was acting out and I didn't talk to him again, it was raining really hard that day. I'll never forget this, and it made me laugh so hard. I couldn't even control it. But he was so mad that I wouldn't talk to him. He yelled that he hoped I tripped and fell in a puddle outside, and I laughed.
Well,
like I'd never laughed in my life. It was still the funniest thing I think I've ever heard someone say to me. And he meant it like it's a genuine insult,
right? Like,
but
really
it was so like
it to
he was like, I hope you trip in that puddle. And I was like,
well,
oh wow,
okay,
I probably will, because I'm not very with it. But that was Wednesday, so I mean it's fine.
It's fine.
But there's really nothing that somebody could say to me now.
No.
Like I mean, and people would come in for intakes, and they would say, and I'm like, I'd be like, I used to work in prison. I used to tell them, I used to work in prison, so you're fine. Like, tell me whatever you want.
Right.
I never judge it.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Exactly. We've heard it all.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Next one. How do you listen to people complain all day?
As somebody who did this for a long time, it's easy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not that hard.
And people aren't really complaining. Some people are.
Some people are, but a lot of it's not.
So, but I think I definitely have people who have said this to me who don't like know what therapy is. Yeah.
Sometimes the way I used to tell people is it's not what they're saying. Sometimes you have to kind of like wade through the mud and figure out.
Yeah,
they're complaining about, you know, this person annoying them, but then you get really to the bottom of it. It's like, they feel, you know, inferior to this person. I mean, you
got to go deep.
It's not that hard to figure out.
Right. Exactly. Next one. Do you go to therapy?
Oh, like people ask you this?
I've had a couple of people ask me if I have a therapist. Which
I'm trying to think if anybody. I don't think anybody's ever asked me this.
I think I feel kind of two ways about it. One, because I think people get kind of judgy if you say yes. They're like, oh, and it's like, well,
I don't know that I would answer this question.
Does your doctor not have a doctor? Like,
right?
Is your doctor immune to like health problems because they're a doctor?
I've been asked, like, I sometimes I think I've more been asked, have you ever been through therapy, or have you ever gone to therapy in the past? And I usually say, this was not true for me, but I said almost all grad schools like require you to like go to a few sessions. Right. I didn't have to for mine, but I tell people, I'm like, most therapists have gone through therapy at some point. Yeah. And usually it's part of their like grad program. And they're like, oh, okay. Yeah. But no, I've never been like somebody be like, are you in therapy?
Yeah. No, I've definitely had some, not in like a mean way, but they'll just
like, no, but like there's like
just
a question. Yeah.
And I'll tell them like, if I am, I'll be like, oh yeah, like I have a therapist right now. Or I'll say like, no, I haven't gone for a while, but you know, because I haven't dated it. Which I think it's good to do that because it shows that we're human too, and
Yeah.
it shows kind of what therapy should look like.
Yeah.
So to speak.
I think I would answer it would depend on the client. Like I don't know that I would tell.
Yeah.
Like
right,
I don't
right.
know. I can't give like a good example, but I think if I thought it was going to help the
Yeah,
therapeutic
you know
relationship,
when,
I would say it. Yeah.
Yeah, you know when to answer
But
that,
otherwise,
when to not.
no.
Okay. Last one. Well, I don't need therapy.
Oh, mama.
That
When you tell me that means you do need
that means
therapy.
you do need. Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. That's probably a red flag that you do need therapy.
I don't need
I don't
this.
I don't need this.
I don't need this. Oh.
Ouchie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel the burn.
Feel the burn. So some things people say outside of therapy. So
Yes.
if you say that to a therapist, please stop.
Yeah, don't say that. It's kind of like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like another. It's like the only other thing I can think is like if you meet like a doctor and you're like, oh, do you like, I mean, asking them dumb questions about their
Right.
profession. Like, I don't know that I
Or
would
like,
do
can you
that.
look at my toe?
Then I'd just be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm curious about, I mean, if you want to ask, about stuff, sure. But don't,
But don't be weird.
Can you read my mind? Do you go to therapy? I'd be like,
Yeah.
get out of here.
Get out of here.
Stop
I
talking to
can't
them.
stand you. Yeah.
Ugh.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's end a little fact or crap.
Ooh, okay.
I had to, so some of them I will say, I tried to find ones that are kind of well known, kind of like myths or things that people say.
Uh-oh.
Um,
So if I get it wrong, I'm a dumbass.
yeah. But then I also found some that are just like interesting.
Okay.
So we'll see. And I did briefly fact check some of these.
Okay.
So if I am wrong, don't come for me.
Don't add us, okay?
Don't add us.
'Kay.
Thank you. So the first one, we only use 10% of our brain. Fact or crap?
Crap.
Yeah, that's crap.
Yeah.
There have been many, many studies
Yeah.
that show we use
Way more than
varying degrees, but
Yeah.
it is not.
that.
There is no
10%.
unlocking more power of our brain. Like,
oh my God.
our
You know
brain.
do you see those people who are like,
Oh.
unlock your brain? I'm like, this
Oh,
is such a scam,
yeah,
but it's fine.
This is an MLM.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. This one's kind of fun. It's not really like real, but Santa's sleigh was pulled by a female reindeer.
I think that's fact.
It is fact because male reindeer lose their antlers during winter, and females don't. And all the reindeer had antlers, so
They're the ladies.
suck it, men.
All the single ladies.
All the single ladies. Humans share 95% of their DNA with bananas.
That is a fact.
It's actually crap.
Is it?
Only like 50 or 60.
Just only 50 or
Only
60.
50 or
So I'm
60.
almost a banana.
I know. I had
Love
to
it.
fact check that one because I was like, that sounds fake, and it was fake.
Oh.
Shaving hair, like any kind of like facial hair or leg hair or whatever, makes it grow back thicker.
That's false. That is crap.
It is crap. It does. What happens is when you shave the cuticle or the part under the skin, which is thicker,
Yeah.
is what comes out, and so it appears to be
Yeah.
thicker,
But it's not.
but in reality, it does not long term make your hair thicker.
No. My mom used to say that to
Yeah,
me, and
yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm sure she's listening. Thanks, Mom,
Thanks,
for lying to
Mom.
me.
You liar. Heroin was used to treat coughs in children as late as 1912.
That's fact.
That's fact.
I guarantee.
They
yeah,
sure did.
fact.
The Bayer Company. Mm-hmm.
They make a lot of meds. So
This one's kind of festive.
sure.
The Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th.
I actually think that is crap. I don't think it was on July 4th.
Correct. It is crap. It was approved by Congress on July
Yeah.
4th, but they did not physically sign it until August.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought it was after.
You're doing really good. I thought some of these would slip you up.
I'm so smart. I'm so proud of myself. Okay.
You have to wait 24 hours to file a missing person report.
False.
It's false. Mm-hmm.
That used to be a law.
It used to be, but
I've seen too many documentaries now.
but it hasn't been for some time.
Yeah.
I don't remember the actual date.
Some places, so I will say, on a lot of these documentary shows, some places like they'll say, "Oh, we can't do that," but they can absolutely do that, and you need to push them if they won't. But
Absolutely.
no.
And I think one article I did read said this has actually caused a lot of problems and has probably been responsible, like this misinformation has been responsible for some people not being found,
Yeah.
especially children, because like after I think it's like 24 or 48 hours with kids, like
Yeah.
if they're missing, they're probably dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say you don't see it a lot for kids. At least the documentaries on kids I've seen, but like the adult ones that like they'll go to the police station and be like, "Oh, we can't do that," and it's like, "No, you absolutely can, and you need to."
Absolutely can. A buttload is an actual unit of measurement.
I feel like this is crap, but I want to say it's true just because I feel like there probably is
You have
somewhere.
to pick one.
I'm going to say it's true.
It's fact. It is actually
Yes.
126 gallons. Because a butt is an
I say that's so much.
old term for a large cask that would
Oh.
transport wine or other liquids. So like the
Oh.
big like barrels.
Yeah.
That was a butt.
Oh,
And
I
so
love
they would
it.
say a buttload.
I say a buttload.
Mm-hmm.
So much. Okay.
Well, now you know it's 126 gallons.
Love that. Love that for me.
I
I,
thought
don't
that
know what
was
I'm trying to think of
fun.
what I describe as a buttload, but now it's probably not that much.
Well, the forbidden fruit from the Garden of Eden was an apple.
That's true. That's fact.
It's actually believed to be crap.
Oh, really? Okay.
Of course, the translations now say an apple, but there was a lot of confusion from some of the translations from I think it was like Hebrew and Greek, where some of the words for apple were really something else. So, because I don't believe were apples in
Mm-hmm.
the area that
Yeah.
they were in. So, in some of the actual, what am I trying to say? Like the real Bible, like not the Americanized version, like the non-translated.
Yeah.
They never mention the word apple.
Oh.
It's just called the forbidden fruit. And a lot of people, a lot of scholars actually believe it was probably a fig.
Oh, okay.
Because that they do mention that when Adam and Eve were, I don't know, born or whatever, that they covered themselves in fig leaves. So
Sure.
there probably was a fig tree around. Or they believed it might have been a grape as well, since
Yeah.
grapes were around a lot. But there were others. But yeah, technically in some of the original text, an apple, they never said that word.
Hmm.
So,
Fake.
fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news. And then the last one, the critically acclaimed podcast Two Tired Therapists is an important source of entertainment, making it a staple to global society.
That's very much a fact.
It's actually crap. I was hoping you would say that so
Yeah.
I could say it's crap. Yeah, it's crap. So sorry.
So sorry.
So sorry. Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Sounds great. But there you go. A little factor crap. I thought that was fun.
That is fun.
I'm kind of I like weird information.
I like trivia.
that little trivias.
Esque stuff.
So
Love
there
that.
you go. There you
Yay.
go. Things to say, not to say to a therapist. Things to
No.
know about therapy.
Yeah, if you guys have questions for
Yeah.
us, if you want to know things or why we say things in therapy, sure, we could probably do an episode
could
on that in the
probably- yeah.
future. Who cares?
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people who listen to this probably are in therapy. I imagine. Or probably started listening and are now in
Now
therapy.
need it
Now
after they've
need it.
listened to
And
us. So
we are
there's
happy
that.
to provide you those resources.
Yes, we can provide that.
Yes. So there you go.
Oh my.
Well,
Could you imagine you get a client there and they're like, "Why are you coming to therapy?" Well, I listen to this podcast and it's just made me feel like I need therapy. I would laugh so hard. I'd be like, "What podcast is it?"
And then you go listen to it.
And you're like,
"Oh,
"Oh, now I understand very." You go to the
understand.
next session, you're like, "Oh, I understand very deeply. Okay, let's
Yes.
do the work
Let's
now.
do the work. Let's do the healing.
Let the healing begin."
Let the healing begin.
Ah.
That, speaking of unhinged,
Oh, no.
that part in our unhinged episode of Billy Mulligan,
Oh my god.
where we are pretending to be,
Exercise.
I'd like to talk to Sarah.
I know. Oh my god. I still need to find that clip from the Dr. Phil show. I still haven't been able to find it.
We do. I looked it up. There were a couple.
There's a couple
from Dr. Phil.
This-
One was like, my mother's personalities are ruining my life or something. I didn't watch it. I just was skimming.
The one that in my brain, it's a guy. It's a guy who's I want to say he's bald or balding, and he's got glasses and kind of like a little beard, and he's wearing a brightly colored shirt. And he's I remember Dr. Phil and then he's just I want to talk to Mark, and he's like, okay. He's like, the guy comes out, and I'm like,
I
this
hate
is so
it.
bad. I'm gonna try. I'll look. I'm gonna Google it
I
because
want to talk to Millie Billigan.
Yeah.
Oh.
Could you imagine if somebody did that in all seriousness? I would
be
probably
like,
piss myself.
if this was in therapy, if I had the patient that came in and said that, let me let you talk to Jessica, and then
Yeah.
they did that, I'd be like, This session is now over.
Yeah, we are. Today we're done.
Right.
I can't talk to Jessica. I don't have a release of information for her. That's what I would say. I cannot speak to all your
I'm so
personalities.
sorry. No, we need to get ROIs for all of
Yeah,
all
so
of
you're
your
gonna have to call them
personalities.
all, and then I will have to
And-
staff this with my supervisor.
Right.
And then,
Right. Immediately. Immediately staffed.
well,
On that note.
on that note, please take all your personalities and
Shove it.
that and have a nice little day and stay tired.
And petty.